I guess we can start in a few minutes. Okay. First of all, good afternoon. Very happy to have today Lorenzo Lotti from the University College of London. Then you're going to present yourself a bit about the specific roles you have. Lorenzo is in streams of research, especially experiments. Okay, here we have Professor Mancinelli, who is into experiments.
They should know that.
Again,
They should.
Some of them, some not. So before starting, I'd like just to, because I'm very happy because UCL is a place where we do have different trends. We had 3 times Paul Likins, just checking with Asia, and 2-3 times Paul was here last year, so in June. If you don't know who Paul Likins is, you can Google Paul Likins, even in Wikipedia. Also unveiling what Paul Likins did in the 80s in politics before. It's also a nice example. And then we did it for, because I was sharing with students, I think last year, I'm starting the fact that both Paul Likins and another very famous environmental economist, Kirk Hamilton, who died last year, I think they concluded the PhD in the early 40s. I'm not sure about, I think Paul did his PhD between 38, 39, 40. I'm sure about Kirk Hamilton, who was at UCL when he was a student. Kirk Hamilton, for sure, became Kirk Hamilton in the World Bank after the turned out the Master in Environmental Economics at UCL in 1993 at the age of 39, because he wanted me to change his life, and then the PhD in the early 40s. So to say that training is relevant and the PhD is not for 25 years, okay, the PhD or even a master course, you could decide at the age of 40, I want to have another laurea magistrale or master, to add one or to change your perspective, but it is possible. So I'm saying this because especially in this country, we still have this cognitive inertia that you have to graduate, which is fine on average, that you have to graduate by 24, get PhD by 28, and then this is been the kind of all-time thing. So training is a lifelong learning, is something you can do with a real life. So to say what that I had, for example, you see this? Yeah, that's very proud because I had this in my wallet. And
the L is still there.
Yeah,
it's the other 2 letters.
And you see the year, so that's a funny thing I wanted to share with you, because it was a real fun. I mean, 1 year, 7, 8, really turning point of my life at the time. So really happy to have UCL guys around. Okay, here, so.
Was it in David Ricardo building in 1988?
Yeah. So that's it. So happy to share with you this. And where I met Simone Borghesi, he was not in environmental economics, but he was in the economics master. But I met Simone Borghesi in London in 1998. So those of you who may know who Simone Borghesi is, actually president of the European Environmental Economics Association. So again, if you know who Simone is, please check. Yeah, by coincidence, I'm really done, because then I met and had dinner with Simone, also Asia was there because we were at the expo in Osaka, and Simone was there because he was invited by the Japanese Environmental Economics Association, and we met at dinner in Kyoto. It was kind of because, you know, in Kyoto, just because it was in Kyoto, we were in Osaka, so it's pretty close, 25 minutes by train. But the fact that just going to the history of environmental policy, 1998, I'm wrong, is the Kyoto Protocol, 97 December. But, so that this was the real first turning point in terms of environmental policy at signed in Kyoto at the time. So, okay, I really stop here, and the floor is really yours. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
The slides.
Thanks. Thank you. And I think I don't have my UCL card. Well, thank you for the invite, first of all.
Allora, io mi sono collegato, no? Però hai visto, i ragazzi non sono collegati, non hanno ricevuto il link, sì? Neanche un...
I don't know, there's someone talking.
C'è qualcuno forse collegato che si sta
Sì.
Someone saying that they're not showing.
Is a presentation? Is it sharing a presentation? No, I don't think you're not sharing, that's fine.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I'm doing a test. If I change the slides, is it changing for the others?
Yeah.
No.
know,
Yeah,
in
for
the-
us,
in
sure.
the-
For those
in the-
online.
well, online, I mean, yeah.
Davide? If they have a problem, just
They will unmute again. Thank you. Thank you all, and thanks for the invite. I was saying it's always a pleasure to be here in Ferrara. Well, I'm really glad to have this 1 hour lecture with you and talk about, of course, environmental economics, but also links with the master you are studying and some links with other masters and programs that are connected with sustainability and environment. I'm based at UCL at the Barton School of Energy, Environment and Resources. And in our department, we have a lot of different programs based on sustainability, as the name of the department suggests. So in the past years, I'm the director of education. So we are coordinating all the programs like the bachelor's, the master's, and the PhD programs. And we have 13 master programs based on environment sustainability from different angles, not just economics. We have one environmental economics master. But I mean, this exposure is, of course, really similar to what you will have during this experience. So my first part of the lecture would be focusing on this. So the contributions, the exposure you will get, the benefits you will get studying a master focusing on green transition and sustainability, and then the impact that you can have as part of a larger community. And then as a application of this, I will introduce my team, which is the Behavioral Environmental Economics team. So how we work with students to make research and to have an impact, hopefully, in terms of sustainability. The first thing I would like to tell you, of course, is about the links between sustainability and higher education, and an initiative that I founded some years ago was the Sustainability and Higher Education Initiative in UCL. So it had two main objectives. The first one is to try and connect this department, because the department is 4 different institutes talking about very different things like sustainable heritage, environmental design engineering, environmental economics. So hard to talk, even if some of these institutes and their masters were around for 40, 50 years now. So a long history. And the second point was connecting with the outside. So teaching a master like that for so many decades means that you have a lot of experience in how to teach these kind of topics. But then in the global discussions on this, somehow we were a bit, we were not present. We weren't discussing how the higher education and sustainability were interlinking and communicating one to another. So that was the second aim, connect this network made of academics, students, alumni, and of course the external organizations. So what did we do in the past couple of years? So first of all, cooperating with external companies. One example is the collaboration we had with Perlego. We did a national project inviting high school students to read about sustainability on Perlego, which is this online library. So they gave all the licenses for free to the students. And then they came to UCL and presented a project that they built while studying on Perlego. Of course, books that we suggested. So there was a kind of direction and path there. We make our best students present on open to public webinars. We will have one in a couple of months from now. So it's good for the exposure of our master and showing what we do in the master, but also it's great for the students which are completing the master and trying to get a job and become leaders in sustainability in the different fields. We cooperate with some international organizations and national authorities. We're working, for example, with the government of Qatar and the Qatar Foundation with their eco-schools. Are eco-schools in Qatar having an impact on the population? Are they having an impact on the environment? So we did the first evaluation of that, and then we are building up the next phases to support them improving in sustainability and their eco-school program, which is basically involving 20,000 students already. It's a national project. And then we try to connect all the stories that we had in UCL, but beyond, involving other realities and communities focusing on sustainability from an higher education perspective. And we try to put them all in this book, which we published this January, I think. Yeah. So how is it exactly that our higher education and our universities are interacting and having an impact in terms of sustainability? So first of all, this is a 5 cycles model that I developed for the book. It all starts from our communities. The communities send the students towards the university, right? So, and the students come at the university with some topics related and objectives related to sustainability. Perhaps they come in particular if they are international students coming to UCL, for example, they may have experiences of how climate change changed their lives and communities and local areas dramatically already. So they come to find answers and to possibly address or tackle some of these issues. So we all come together in a university and we find each other there. Yeah. So you can see in the higher education institution, the magic happens. Yeah. So there is a community that talks about sustainability and develops the kind of answers or research or impact in terms of sustainability. But then we have, of course, students interacting with each other. So I learn about your reality, you learn about mine, you learn about what I did in my community or doing my master. Some of my students, it's one of the parts of the book, they have been installing solar panels on our building. So that is a way in which the students were tackling sustainability within the university with the knowledge that they got throughout their studies. Then they interact with the academics, of course, and the academics also discuss of sustainability among themselves. Yeah, so there are small circles that you can see. And then at that point, there are some circles closing and reinforcing each other. So from higher education, there is a direct impact on communities. Yeah? There are external projects working with local authorities, international organizations, a little bit like what we are doing with the Qatar Foundation, for example. Surely, hopefully, the students then become graduates. And at that point, we close other circles. First of all, sometimes graduates come back to the university as academics or with projects that they want to do as external partners with universities. They interact with the current students thanks to open days and students alumni interactions and events. And they interact, of course, with the higher education staff in the sense of becoming academics themselves or doing activities, research together. Yeah. In my next presentations about research, I'm trying to put each paper with that represents one of these circles, or some of them at least, showing how students then cooperated and worked with us to create research. Graduates go back in their communities, so perhaps they have found the answers to the problems they were trying to solve. Yeah? So that is the green circle or the green cycle. And all of this, of course, reinforces and shows that the impact of higher education on sustainability goes farther beyond compared to what we traditionally imagine. Yeah, the linear situation of I study, I graduate, and then I do a job perhaps on sustainability. There is that, of course, but there is much, much more. And the impact of a university and the knowledge and the community of the university is much bigger than what we usually assume. So in our book, for example, we try to tackle some of these examples. There are a lot of stories from UCL students who, for example, solar panels, but also work on research, work on projects to solve issues from their communities and their original country, for example. We have some chapters on evaluation methods run by students and staff together, thanks to European funding. Work with external stakeholders, as I was telling you, for example, per Lego. Transdisciplinarity of the science. So in particular, if you study a master course of an interdisciplinary subject, your undergrad may be different. Yeah? So in that case, there were many students with different training and background merging together to run a research project. And that enriched the team, the potential of the team, which was a mix of students and staff. And then the network that you create. Some of these programs, for example, in my department, are 40 and 50 years running now. And some of my colleagues have tried to map the alumni. So they created a huge mailing list that became thousands of emails long, emails contact. And you can see that the alumni of that specific master, which is the MSc Environmental and Design Engineering, is really having a global reach. And in the next decades after decades, you see that a program like that creates future sustainability leaders that interact and address problems all around the world. And I really wish, and I'm sure that this kind of program will also lead you to become something like that in your future. So we really need this to happen. And for getting this, we need programs like your master. And now what I'm trying to do now is trying to link this with the research team we have. So the Behavioral Environmental Economics team is a mix of staff and PhD students, as most of the research teams really. We try to tackle with behavioral economics problems related to energy and environment with some specific topics of interest like food recycling, and we will see this later. But our research team also tries to link to what I was saying before. So how to blend the research with the teaching, how to blend the impact in sustainability and the role of higher education. So in my case, as a single individual researcher, I can tell that our research team, of course, looks at the research-led teaching. So the research team and my module in behavioral environmental economics were launched at the same year, the same time. So we were teaching it during the master a module on this, and at the same time we were starting the research. And the research outputs and the research that we were getting was feeding the module, which was very research-oriented. And in the module, students are actually learning how to be behavioral economists, which are trying to run research. They need to do presentations on projects that they run. They can run small experiments, and they compete as well. So we ran for many years behavioral marathons, where students were competing, presenting a project on how to tackle a specific environmental related issue. And this was initially a UCL thing, and then became national, and last year it was an international event. So it's another way in which we try to connect the teaching with the impact and direct impact of the teaching per se. Of course, all the students are learning, hopefully, a lot of things about experiments. So we do then run a lot of dissertations on this. And UCL became a little bit of our lab. It's a big campus with 55,000 students and 15,000 staff. So quite a large university. And we have run many field experiments there. And so it's, we have an example today in the presentation later. But this link between the teaching, the dissertation leads to something necessarily, which is research outputs. Yeah. So it's not always easy to make a dissertation project a paper, but if this streamline work is consistent and clear and focusing on perhaps a research output, then the students are really contributing also from a research perspective, which is I think very important for their futures as well. So we work on making these dissertations also viable papers later on, if there is the chance. Sometimes there are obvious complications. The data set is not rich enough in a field or online experiment, but there is this intention and initial approach already while they are building up their dissertations. And then these students are really becoming part of the community of BEAT. Some of them started the PhD with us, some of them in other places, but always staying connected and contributing, presenting at our seminars, working with us on papers, and being part of the network anyways. Yeah, so no matter the situation and context. And I will tell you some of these stories in the next slides. Students that perhaps were developing research with us during their masters, as well as some others that did it later during their PhD, after many years of working in international organizations. If you have questions, please stop me at any time. Yeah? So the first example I wanted to discuss is indeed one of our initial dissertations of the module. Yeah, Irina was one of our best students in her year, and she followed the module. She learned how to run experiments, and then at the same time, we're actually trying to find someone to work together on an online experiment. So Irina was great in designing the online experiment recruitment, the payment strategy to make real payments. And now, after some years, we finally published this last month. So that is her first publication as well. So it was very good for her to see her dissertation published after so many years of work. This is an interesting paper, which is looking at donations for the environment. And the initial idea is, well, if you are living in Ferrara, would you be more willing to donate for a charity, environmental charity based in Ferrara, an Italian charity, or a global charity? Let's try to do this experiment. who would prefer, if you have, let's assume that you have $10, yeah, let's say dictator game experiment theoretical. Who would like to donate to a Ferrara-based environmental charity? What about a charity that has a national focus instead? Okay, international? Okay, so I think we are quite evenly distributed. Our assumption, and there I put the two hypotheses we had, was that because of use value, so the fact that there is a bit of reciprocity component there. I donate here because I want to see the impact in my daily life. Yeah? I would be very happy to know that there is an environmental benefit in Sri Lanka, but perhaps I would never go to Sri Lanka. I don't know. So that was our initial assumption, and because of that, we tested this in an online experiment with Londoners. So it's a bit difficult to read there, but basically we had real payments with the lottery and £50, and the participants could decide how much of those £50 they wish to donate to an environmental charity. The different treatments were the control group for a local cause and a local charity, treatment 1 national, treatment 2 global. One thing that we didn't disclose were the names of the charities. And this is because it can have an influence of what you decide. Yeah? Not because you prefer national, but because you prefer WWF, for example. Yeah? On the table 2, yeah.
So in your case, the control group is in any case a treated group because it is treated by you with the question
Local, yeah.
Okay.
Control.
Okay, okay. So it is not for interviewing to who you donate to, or but you are
local. See,
okay.
It's a treatment, local treatment. Let's say
okay.
more than it's
Okay.
okay,
Thank you.
After that, if they wanted to donate, we were asking to whom, and the big work that the arena did was actually directed these donations to the charities, which is a big job, and probably retrospectively I would suggest not to put all these options. Yeah, but you can see, for example, that there is a role of knowing the brand or not. Yeah, so in the global you see that 21% go to WWF, and some others like the Sustainable Fishery Partnership gets only 3%. Yes, so we did well, probably not advertising and disclosing anything before. Yeah. And the effect is much stronger for the local, where some charities are very famous and very linked to local issues. Yeah? So like clean air in London, a massive problem that we had for decades. So what you cannot read here, yeah, is the attitudinal question. So we also try to understand whether these three groups were similar, not only in terms of demographics, but also in terms of if they cared or not about climate change or the environment. All of this was asked after the donation, not to influence the responses. To our surprise, what we have found was a monotonically significant increase in donations if you were going from the local to the global. So participants that were donating to UK were more likely to donate, and even more if it was a group likely to donate more that was supposed to donate for international global charities. So this is the opposite result of what we expected. I think I'm breaking something here at some point. I mean, the first thing here would be try to reflect on the value of non-use value, the role of non-use value in economics, because of course non-use value is usually thought to be less important than use value. This seems to contradict that. Of course, population target was Londoners, and the Londoners are quite a special population. Perhaps this is the generalizability of this is not will not be great. We don't know, but Londoners sometimes are not originally from London or from UK. Londoners may travel quite a lot, so you wonder if that is really non-use value or it is a use not use value. The amount donated wasn't significantly changing. Yeah, so you see that this part of table 4 is about amount donated, and this part is about the decision to donate, so the likelihood. Any questions? This is another paper. So we moved to another online experiment. Shanali was one of our first students in the behavioral economics, environmental economics course. She did a very nice dissertation on fisher recreational anglers, fisher anglers. And then she went to work for FAO for a long time. But she really wanted to build her research portfolio because after FAO wanted to start a PhD that now she is completing in the University of East Anglia. So this is another example of a student that collaborated in our research, but from after graduation. So a cycle that closes later on. The paper we worked on, in this case, was an online experiment during COVID. So 2020, first wave of COVID, US. The main question here is, well, we know from history that when things are very hard, like there are wars, there are very disruptive events, we know from books and history that people may risk everything they have for strangers. Yeah? So the literature on why are we doing that, not necessarily in line with the classical economics, is still on the discussion. Of course, there are a lot of researchers which strongly feel that the personal norms are a big driver. But of course, you may, like rationally, you would assume that when things become harder, not just in terms of risking your life, but also with more compact and restricted financial availability, you may become selfish. Yeah? So we wanted to test what was going to happen during COVID, where we had a first global lockdown, where in particular in US, the financial situation of many families was getting worse and worse week by week. And many people were losing their jobs there. So in this case, what we did was launching every week for 8 weeks, the online experiment on dictator games. So we had the $1,000 for each dictator game. So what we changed in this within group experiment was the recipient. So we were asking them in random order if they wanted to donate, how much of that they wanted to donate to an anonymous person, and then to a neighbor, to the government, and then to a relative. And we changed the recipient because the one option could have been that when things become harder and harder, perhaps your generosity changes, but differently considering different recipient. So perhaps I'm very generous towards my relatives, but I'm always generous. Not that I stop being generous after some weeks. Yeah? And the most interesting one was anonymous recipients. Yeah, so US is famous for the larger charity endowments from the communities, like 2% of the GDP. So what is happening in this situation, which is so hard also from a financial perspective? We discovered some interesting things. So first of all, as we expected, participants were donating much more to relatives, around $300 out of 1,000. then government, neighbor, and anonymous. Of course, in the first three, you may think that there is some reciprocity there, yeah? So in particular with the government, I support the government, and if I feel unwell because of COVID, perhaps there will be support for they are strange dictator games. Anonymous was very, very low. Initially, it was below 50, like around $43 out of 1,000, which is much less than what the literature expects from real payments dictator games. So it's very, very low. Interestingly enough, and perhaps we have this in the next slide. Let me check. No, the relatives stayed more or less constant. They increased but slightly. Whereas for anonymous, the donations went from $43 up to $140. So they almost they more than doubled for sure. So it was very interesting to see this very big change in donations. And it was explained, it's a little bit difficult to read here, but most of the controls are in the notes. What you can see here is the first one is being concerned by COVID. And you can see that people concerned by COVID or really concerned were donating significantly more to their relatives, much more, compared to the first category, which was not at all concerned. The number of weeks had a significant role in increasing the donations towards anonymous, and of course there is a lot of information that you can only speculate about. Yeah? Was this because of the fact that we were keep reading about the bad condition of U.S. citizens in general? Was this because the social distance between you and the rest of the community was becoming more and more difficult to handle? We don't know. But the role of staying in that situation for a prolonged time had a very strong impact, even if the financial conditions were also getting worse and worse. Because the first 2 months, US couldn't handle very well financially what was happening. There were a lot of job losses, etc., etc. And we had questions about that to control for it. All right, any questions? I'm trying to see if, okay, yeah. I could say more things about this, but perhaps I can move to the next one then. Great. The third example is a field experiment that we run at UCL. So UCL campus, we were, I think, 21st. Yeah, 21st in the League of Sustainability UK. So we're doing quite bad. Yeah? Now we are first, but we spent a lot of time working on that. And this means looks at the sustainability performance of the campus. Yeah, is your campus green? UCL wasn't green enough, apparently. We did much better later on. One problem was waste. Yeah, so when I arrived at Vizier, for example, I noticed that I started looking at the bins and seeing that there was a list of things that you could put when you were doing sorting your waste, but they were written. It was a list of things. And the problem with this is that it's not very visible and salient. Point two, you don't want to spend a lot of time in front of the bin because perhaps you have other things to do, or because perhaps it's smelly, you don't know. Yeah. So the result of that was a very poor level in terms of quality of sort. There were a lot of errors in the bins. The first work we have done with students was to improve the design, and you can see on the top right, yeah, rubbish, only empty, and just food. That design was basically coming from one of our experiments, which improved the quality of sorting by 80%. So had a huge result. Then, of course, designers and people that knew about design much more than us did much fancier labels that then we applied to the entire campus, so all UCL. At that point, the question was, okay, how do we improve something that was improved already by 80%? It's a big challenge. How can we possibly improve this? And with Giovanni, we worked on something coming from neuroscience. So in our brain, there is a region which is made to recognize things in nature. Out of 100 cells there, 60 are meant to recognize and spot eyes. And this makes sense. Yeah. So if you are in a jungle, you want to see a pair of eyes. It's the first thing you want to see, right? Because that thing can move, perhaps. Yeah. Perhaps it's a threat. Perhaps it's another human or another person. We don't know. But we have this heritage that you can exploit, perhaps, for nudges and for nudging. Yeah. Here, of course, you cross completely the line of libertarian academics. Yeah. So you are completely in the thinking fast zone. You don't want or you don't pretend that people to reflect on what they're doing. You just want to nudge them toward the best decision. Yeah. With a salience enhancement. Yeah. So my question was, can a pair of human eyes direct your attention and put social pressure on you to improve recycling and the sorting? So we had 3 buildings. In one building, we panel A, we kept the beans as they were. They were very, very good already. So the control was already a strong one, which is usually a problem if you want to show some significance. In the second building, we added the pair of eyes, which are Giovanni's eyes on the top of the labels. Yeah, so the labels were slightly smaller, which is also going against what we want to do, hopefully, theoretically, and then the pair of eyes. And then in the third building, we just left his eyes. Yeah, so no information given. You have the social pressure, but you don't have the information. Yeah? And we were hoping to see some positive effects, of course, in the treatment 1. Yeah, on treatment 2 is quite hard because, of course, doing that and being positive means that effectively the labels are useless, which was a very big statement. Yeah, so it was unlikely.
The eyes are the same.
They are all the same,
Okay.
and the other the bigger. So I designed this originally for Westminster City Council. So it was supposed to run in Oxford Street and Regent Street with millions of people throwing things all the day. The problem with that, I mean, it was potentially a much larger experiment, but the outcome variable would have been bags rejected for contamination, which is not exactly a clean variable. Yeah, either you have a very big bag of waste, which is completely wrong, so recycling full of food. Yeah, or you accept it when you arrive to the waste manager. Yeah. So here we were actually very lucky because inside that bin there are 3 bags in different colors, and the 3 bags are transparent. So not only Giovanni went to every bin every day at 5:30, scaling with a scale weighting all the bags. Yeah, we bought like a small the one that you use for your luggages. Yeah, 5 pounds. But also, given that it was transparent, he could look at all the mistakes that were in there, which was a very, very good data set in the end. So as you can see, initially we had a control period with no treatments. Yeah, so we could do a difference approach. Then we treated, and then we did the post-treatment. So we removed the eyes, Giovanni's eyes. Yeah? And if you see the observations, well, we have 18 monitoring points. So 16 days, 17 days, 5 days, and in total you have like 2,000 observations. So he really spent a lot of time on this. What did we find? One interesting one. There was one building, the building number 1, I think, the number 2, where someone from the building was removing his eyes. So one day, have you seen that film with Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio, thing that were in the airport running all the time? Yeah, Giovanni and I were trying to catch this person. There were like 6 floors. At some point, it lasted 1 day, but we were a bit concerned because, of course, for some reason, this person decided we couldn't do that, even if we had all the approvals from the managers. So what did we find? So in this case, as we were saying, we do a difference in differences. Yeah. So we compare the same building with before and with the other, and the difference between that building and the control building, which wasn't treated. A bit hard to see from here, but in the first column, you can see the number of errors for as a percentage in the no recycling bag, so the black bag, the normal rubbish. Yeah, and the red is the treatment. Yeah, so you can see that the treatment was very high and bumpy initially, and then after the treatment, the vertical red line mistakes stopped. Yeah. Whereas in treatment 2, when you have only the human eyes without instruction, you see that instead mistakes remain, but also they are quite tall. Yeah, so here, yeah, you see those spikes, red spikes. Yeah. With mixed recycling is the cleanest of the 3 columns. Perhaps you can see that in the building with instruction and eyes, the red line goes down significantly, and then after when you see the blue vertical line, which is the post treatment, you see that it's starting to go up again. Yeah, as if the social pressure from the eyes was gone. And with just the human eyes, you see that in fact the red building is becoming much more bumpier than before, and the number of mistakes increased. Yeah, why is that? Because from one side you have the social pressure of human eyes to make a decision. The problem is that you don't know the answer because you don't have the labels. Yeah? So they were more active without knowing what they were doing on average. Yeah? And then also with the food waste, the bags were almost empty in many days. So you see that the distribution sometimes is a bit flat. Yeah, but the only having eyes without the instructions, if you see the number of mistakes, it's huge. Yeah, you see the red going like this. Yeah, so overall, even if the bin was great already, we managed to reduce significantly the mistakes by 64, 95, and 58%. So a huge result. So yeah, so this is not only collaboration between a student and the staff, the academics, working on what they learned during the master, but it's also a working on aiming to improve sustainability of the campus. Yeah, so the university is not just people, but it's also infrastructures, it's sustainable buildings. So it is a research which aims to improve also university per se, so the institution. Any questions? So there were many other, as I told you, we have done a lot of field experiments at UCL, so I would have liked to discuss many other more. I just put here the 3 I presented, and then one that we recently published as well on working on students' accommodations. That is about energy reduction. So I have done that with HN. Yeah.
Just a curiosity, but then did you apply the eyes and in your UCL?
No,
Okay.
this is quite a shame actually. It could have become an idol, right? We could have put the ones of our founder, perhaps. But that is a very interesting topic. We tried to use to run a similar one in students' accommodation last year with human eyes and AI generated eyes. And there was a difference between the two, but it is something very with a good potential. I don't know what is the long-term effect as well, because this didn't run for months, and I mean it could be that you get costume. There are those fields where I mean, person goes in there to sleep somewhere, and there is the I don't know, the painting of the old grandfather watching like this, and they try to cover it. And perhaps they get costumed, and perhaps it's the same with Giovanni's eyes. We don't know. Yes.
From my understanding, if I understood it properly, you said that at a certain point, the effect of the eyes were lowered.
Yeah, let me show you. So you see the blue vertical line. That is when we remove the eyes, not from Giovanni, from the vision. You can see in the cleanest, like the richest data set is the mixed recycling. If you see the blue horizontal, it's quite stable. The red one goes down, but then after we remove the eyes, you see that the number of mistakes are going upwards. Yeah, it's a trend that seems to start before that actually, but it's catching up the blue line there.
No, because I was wondering what would happen if instead of a pair of eyes, because I understand the neurological side behind it, it's meant for survival. Like if you start looking around, that maybe there is something I should look at.
That is my interpretation. I stress. Perhaps it's not like this,
but that being a picture, I assume that maybe the more the time goes on, maybe the first time I see the eyes, and okay, why are these eyes looking at me? And then I understand these eyes are fake.
Yeah.
So I stop getting the neurological hint from that, let's say, and it stops having an effect on me. So I was wondering what would happen.
If you want to run your dissertation in this campus, you can run it for much longer, and you see if there is if we get custom. Like one thing I noticed in the zoo, in the London Zoo, there is a park for butterflies. And there are some butterflies with large fake eyes on the wings. And I knew they were there. I knew that they were fake, but regardless, every time that I was getting that butterfly in front of me, my first reaction was, because it's something that I cannot get accustomed to, because it's subconscious. It's not in my control. So it could be.
No, the thing I was wondering is what would happen if instead of eyes, you throw a fake camera there. So you people have a perception of constant control that doesn't disappear over time because you know that these eyes are fake. Would it change?
I mean, social pressure works usually is a strong driver. And there are some experiments in this. It simply doesn't work on, it doesn't exploit this neuroscientific aspect, neurological aspect. It works on social pressure per se, but it is actually used very much. And I think there is an experiment. I don't know if it is now something that they've implemented, but in some Chinese parks, there was this problem of people going with the scooter or with the motorbike, and sometimes with some like bad behavior and robbery. So they actually put like a big screen which was not only monitoring you while you were passing, it was showing you that it was recording you in a big screen, so you were seeing yourself and what you were doing. And below, it was showing situations where bad things happened with the other people that were like actually taken on camera. And that is showing that there was bad behavior. They are showing it to everyone, that information, and then they show yourself in that moment, saying you can be the next one on the list. And I think it was very like emotionally very strong as a treatment. So it could be something along those lines, perhaps, with different mechanisms in time, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe also problem of privacy law.
Huge problem, perhaps, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was actually listening to your comment, and it really makes sense. So I think I have the same idea that Martin said that after a while, the eye can get very familiar, but so for the first impression, yeah, that's really shocking. And the butterfly example, actually, because it's moving, you don't expect it to come out of.
Yeah.
If I expect the eye in front of the beams.
Yeah,
I'm
that's a
gonna get
very
used to
useful.
it. But I was thinking, like, why would you come up with the eye? Like, why would you want to shock? Because after a while, it can become familiar, then maybe people want to have fun with it, and they'll draw something on it, or then, did you like think about something like written, or eyes were like have to be part of the research or something like that?
Yeah, yeah. So my first point was trying to see if
The eye
this mechanism could work for nudges, and nudges are in way sorting. So I just wanted to understand how if it was working. We have done a lot of experiments on ways. So we tried a lot of other things like competition between floors, salience, loss aversion, showing like pictures of beaches full of waste with positive and negative frame. So it was adding this component and to see if this was more effective than the other things. And the redesign of that was also very strong. So I cannot say that probably, I mean, from this research, I can say that it's even stronger with the eyes, but they are combined. So it's not meant to replace the other things. As we see there, I mean, driving attention is not enough. It's not powerful enough. Even less if you start drawing the eyes, of course. Yeah.
I would like to ask you if did you include the warm glow in this research?
Sorry?
The warm glow. Warm glow.
Yeah, the warm glow. For this one specifically,
Yeah.
how would you implement it?
For example, in the fact that this positive emotion recycling in your eyes will give you effectively the recycling.
Yeah. So like a positive framing on the impact and making feel. Yeah.
Maybe I'm sorry, I'm not so specific. Maybe when you see your neighbor at the recycling, make it use properly to recycling. But even also the fact that maybe the recycling itself amount is not enough because you are would decrease the waste.
No, absolutely. I was thinking about one of the first experiments we've done on this, and we had these two posters with the two different sand beaches there, and the positive framing was something like sort correctly today and help maintaining this, which is surely a positive framing, but doesn't push enough on the warm glow, which would be slightly different and very interesting, I think. So to compare the two, and connects also with the non-use value we were discussing in the first experiment. Yeah, so how you may feel useful in doing something good for that, I don't know, island that you don't know or you will never see that. Perhaps you help maintaining indirectly, you maintain hypothetically cleaner. Any other question? Do we know if we have online questions?
I left a comment, but if you want to tell them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you have any questions, we are all ears. Doesn't seem. Okay. Great.
Really, any other one? We're fine, yes. So, 3. Are we done with the presentation?
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe I have one general question on the behavioral side.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, or I don't remember what is your academic background, if it's in economics or somewhere else, economics.
I have a slide on that. One second. Let's
You don't remember, you have to look.
I have to, yeah. So I studied economics in Italy for a long time, and then I also studied at UCL, the same building Massimiliano was studying in. So yeah, an interesting thing linking with what Massimiliano was saying. Of course, interdisciplinarity is something that we need to embrace globally for issues like tackling sustainability and climate change.
I was asking for
yeah.
one specific reason, which is I'm not really on the behavioral side. I prefer organizational behavior, which is management fundamentally.
Yeah.
But I found one thing missing from the economical departments, which is why I asked you what your background was, is that we learn about human behavior, but it's not a department of psychology, so obviously we lack the underlying knowledge.
Yeah.
Do you think that the lack of an introductory course to general psychology drags down, let's say, the things that an economist can do on the behavioral side, because he lacks the understanding of what are the mechanisms underlying the phenomena he's studying? So would you say that it would be a nice thing to have introductory courses in psychology?
Like 2 disclaimers. The first one is that there are programs on behavioral economics, like master programs, and I didn't attend that. So I cannot say that nowadays they are designed in different ways. The second is, of course, that nowadays in behavioral economics, and the publications, you need a bit of everything. Yeah. So we have a behavior change department in UCL, and we collaborate, and they have a certain expertise and background, and I have mine, and we blend together well. So that is also interdisciplinarity, which is something that makes you richer from a research perspective. I think that out of 68 modules that I studied, one was on behavioral economics. So this means that, of course, there are many things, and one was environmental economics. So I would have loved to study much more of that. So moving from there to a best scenario, which can be any kind of improvement from that position, which I find a bit strongly not oriented to very important topics. As a gold standard, I think it's a great idea. So to have courses that describe and show a little bit more what is exactly that we are getting from the other disciplines, because behavioral economics is a blend, of course, blends as the recycling paper shows. I mean, we get things from neuroscience, from psychology, so absolutely it would massively help.
I was asking because the thing that I found out in a lot of papers dealing with behavior from my side, so it's management, is that, well, given the characteristic also of social science studying human behavior, there is a problem in variability across definitions. I mean, for example, I asked you, are you happy? Then I asked someone else, are you happy? I'm asking about happiness, but the two people may have a different definition of the construct. Let's say, so maybe you would write a paper about happiness, another person write about happiness, but they measure it in two different things. The definition that they use are different, so you don't really know what happiness is, and maybe there is an overlap between the two things.
Yeah.
So as I said before, maybe it drags down the development of knowledge in a specific topic.
Absolutely.
Which is also the beauty of social science within This is not mathematical, this is not mathematical definition, these are not, but they are sociological.
Then of course, I mean, little by little develop whatever it is, not necessarily happiness, but
Just an example.
yeah, you develop a debate. So there is literature trying to find the best definition, the best way to actually measure it. And there is a literature just talking about precisely that. So, I mean, it's a dynamic environment, and when you find the best practice, then hopefully things converge towards that. Either way, we should enter, for example, some variables. Yeah.
Regarding the study we did, I was wondering, like regardless of the graphs and stuff, were there any milestones throughout your research that showed like percentage or tangible data regarding that how long it takes to some behavioral changes affecting throughout the community, or was it effective? Was it not effective? Like, was it something that you thought was like tangible results?
So that I mean, for example, for the recycling, that is a subconscious treatment that we see that works. So that was just 16 days. That was a reduction of 70% of the mistakes. So it's a huge reduction of a thing that was already working very well. Some other things are much more complex. So, for example, one other project we had was trying to reduce food waste in houses. That is really hard. And the behavior change department, for example, does things that are completely different from nudges. So to change a habit, it takes at least 60 days. So it's a 60 days of treatment and reflecting and thinking, what are you doing and how can you do it differently and measuring. So there are different approaches. It's like having different medicines for different objectives. In fact, what we have learned in these years is that some nudges work in certain contexts and not in others. So generalizability is an issue. They're usually much cheaper than other interventions, so that is an advantage, but they need to be tailored. So the work of a behavioral change and qualitative, for example, approach and quantitative is really important if you are like a policymaker that would like to, I don't know, completely change how recycling works in Ferrara, for example. You need all the things to have an holistic approach.
So yeah, I specifically asked because we are having events about sustainable tips that you can do inside housing. So that's what actually triggered my question, because I want to know if can apply this. It's supposed to do these behavioral changes inside houses. So that's why I asked that.
So if it is about food, one person perhaps you can look at even on LinkedIn, Sophia Food, I think. So every day she's posting some tips and research, but it's more impact research, not necessarily like a well-published research which took years to make, but sometimes they're very quick and researches on how they made an impact in I don't know, households, etc. And if the objective is food waste or food, she works a lot on that, and she's very active in showing how to. I think you can check. Thanks. Yeah.
Sorry, so Volga, thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. I would like to ask you, in order to, for example, the social impact of, as your book, the circular role of higher education on, for example, sustainability communities. Would you adopt or have you adopt a instrumental variable approach, or could you use it?
I think that I mean, what we discuss in the book is quite. I mean, there are reflections and the interviews, and they described specific practical projects which led to a sustainable impact, which is not quantified in a quantitative way. What we tried to do, for example, in the Qatar project, now that we have tried to measure the impact of the eco-schools, which is an international thing, anyways, is how to shift behaviors, how to make the school be more sustainable as a building, but also as a community. And at that point, we need to, we can use observed data that we have already, and we can try to use some of them as proxies, or we can try to design new interventions. We will see. It will take a little bit of time, but yeah, at some point you need to try to measure this also in situations which are more community and networking and network related environment, as the one in the book. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As you know, I did my PhD on social experiments, but I will share with you the document. After 25 years of research, not the criticism, but warning about giving an excessive role to behavioral change and to citizen consumers' role. Because my point, don't get me wrong, especially in waste management and waste prevention, is that the emphasis is fine. We have other prices, we have match theories, but to me, even through the observation of reality, is that the risk is that we overlook the role of production first, that they can and have advantages and possibility to manage. Instead, to me, again, in the wrong. This excessive emphasis on the fact that consumers need to recycle, do things. Human beings are limited, myopic. Okay, so it is fine because we may link the role change to policies again, always, because policies, even in some cases, top-down economic policies, so forth. But the problem to me, for example, in waste, we're not talking about the role of supermarkets, big firms. They're not just consumers need to separate, collect, do things. And human beings cannot.
Yeah,
they have limits, so they can reach up to a point, but after that, even the rules have the definition I share with students: sustainable consumption and production.
Yeah,
it's and production. So firms need to be involved, need to spend money, need to provide infrastructures. And as a citizen, even in a city like Bologna, maybe talking about waste, Ferrara is doing better. I don't see any kind of infrastructure provided by firms, local firms, or even big firms. It's everything on the shoulders of consumers.
And this actually links very much with the recent literature on the impact of nudges. And what the literature shows is that in the past years, we have actually abused the instrument quite a lot. Even only if you look at the point of view of how to intervene on the consumers, it's an instrument that has been used too much. Yeah, too much. Why? Because for some fields and in some contexts, it didn't have the effects that were hoped, perhaps. And why were they used so much? Well, because they were very popular for sure, but also because they are very cheap compared to other economic instruments, or not just looking at consumers, but in general. So, of course, they could be policy enhancers or work combined with another policy. But of course, we need to look at all the possible instruments that we have. Of course, when you have a new toy, makes sense that you start to play a lot with that. But we need to find the right equilibrium, also to acknowledge the role of producers, as Massimiliano was saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mine is a question more related to less on research and more how you approach the outside world with the research you carry out.
Yeah.
So generally, it's always interesting to convince other stakeholders that what you're doing in research has any value in real life problems. How do you approach that conversation?
It's quite a tough one. I mean, there is an obvious, to me, an obvious problem in terms of how academics, which need basically speak and talk every day of their daily routine and job, have so much difficulty in sharing their knowledge and the impact of what they find. And it's not always easy. We had in ISR, in my institute, for many years, a policy impact manager. So it was actually, the job was trying to get in simple words what we have discovered and try to liaise with the government mostly, so the UK government, but also, I don't know, GEM, international organizations, to make sure that this has an impact.
The way the role of the person to share what you do?
Yeah,
or
exactly.
do what they need?
Capture what they need and bring to us, and then share what we have done and bring it to them, even if they didn't ask, which is even more difficult.
But do you think that works because it's the UK?
I'm not even completely sure that works in general. So I think it helps, and also because it's not just a matter of how you talk, but how you present in a very concise way. So for the Qatar Foundation, for example, we have just finished the phase 1 report. It's 75 pages. It could have been double, but it's already too much. So for them to go to the head of Qatar Foundation and say, well, we have this result, we need phase 2 to start now. We have done an executive report of 6 pages. And it probably is too long, but it's a very big challenge, I think, to make things salient. And perhaps, I mean, behavioral economists are advantaged on that already compared to other fields. But it is difficult, it is tough. Also to align what you have found with what their priorities are from a budget perspective or consensus as well, if there are local authorities, for example. Going back to, I don't know, Westminster Council and say, well, look, we've done the research, actually, it's super effective. You should put the human eyes around. They will have very long conversations on which eyes and why and for how long they can afford to put in Oxford Street and Regent Street without having any kind of further problem or complaint. Everything becomes a little bit harder at that point. But yeah, I think I will go on the 5th of November. No, yeah, 5th of November. I read this morning. So UCL is running this training on how to present and interact with media during COVID. So these kind of trainings are things that actually we really need. And we are not trained to do that as academics. We learn, perhaps some of us, sometimes learn as an indirect spillover effect how to do that, but it's a bit hard.
Okay, given that I recall we have live kind of meeting effective of as well before, yes, please recommend this for upstairs. Okay, so I give that the event is for students again for trying to create a community in the first year, even linking second year students, first year students, and please
say something to each other. Yeah, so we have some time. Three things. The first is very hot seminar. Very hot because saying something about the heating system is on, and you are at the Barton School of Environment and Energy Resources, so you have architecture and the issue, it's maybe an issue for your master thesis as well, I don't know, is an old issue, because I remember being a student in Bologna many years ago, Palazzo Palani historical building, it was late April, it was 25 degrees, very hot. I think the issue is that I will see some kind of criticism, which is fine. Why are they? It's not my responsibility. It is a centralized system. It's not also the responsibility. The problem is that the heating system, especially in historical building, is not decentralized. Don't ask me why, but that's here in other places. So that's an issue because you should do something, but yes, so if you want to check and verify with us, also with live research, and beyond that, we check whether the change is possible. It's not the behavioral change, it's the
Physical,
technological change.
yeah.
Or either removing completely and then using stuff to tweet out. That's the third thing. Second point. Second point is important point. Because given that Lorenzo says a friend that would have a gift which is only for big friends. I can mention in the ones. Yeah, Giuseppe received one. Yes.
We
The Morone was here last year. Yeah. Interesse da marca received one. We are a club of people.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's the method.
Oh, thanks.
I don't know whether we can. I will.
Well, very by Ramstein, amazing.
Wow.
Next
Thank you
time-
so much.
Next time you have to come with that. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you very much.
I said this is my personal gift.
Very
You are too kind.
for the seminar.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you. You shouldn't have anyway. I brought you to Pentolino at UCL. It was a horrible restaurant. Do you remember Pentolino?
Institution.
Padellino. Thank you. It's really nice.
Okay. So given that, yeah, it's okay. You can stay around, but the food and next stop is upstairs, I guess.
It's in the studio on the last floor, so it's not in the other one, it's one above, so just keep going the stairs up, but I have to check if they're ready.
We said 4 when they start doing something for that. Okay, don't go away because you pay it.